That's enough disgusting noises, Leon. Thank you.
Warning, this podcast contains violence, sexuality, gore, and other horrible and disturbing things. Listener discretion is advised. Also, the hosts of this venture are ignorant dipshits, so please do not take anything they say as fact. And enjoy the show.
Now, are you sitting comfortably? Good. Then we'll begin.
Today we had 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be.
The atoms in your left hand probably came from a different star than your right hand.
It is our basic human right to be fucked up.
A second plane now has crashed into the other tower of the World Trade Center.
Putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay.
The defendant shall be incarcerated for the rest of her natural life with no possibility of parole.
You are not machines. You are not cattle. You are men.
We were somewhere around Barstow, on the edge of the desert, when the drugs began to take hold.
Occultae Veritatis.
Hello, occultists, and welcome to Occultae Veritatis. I am Sage Murray.
I am Leon Filger.
And I'm Ood Gallifrey.
And our extra special guest tonight is...
Robot is here to provide entertainment.
Oh, we love Robot. Okay. So now it's time for...
Oh, what's our poison?
Yeah, I need to be a little bit more lubricated. Lubricate me, Robot.
So, what's your poison?
Okay, well, our poison today is La Fin du Monde.
Nice.
It is a fine Canadian beer made by Unibrew.
Ooh, Unibrew? That's a fun name. It's like Unibrow.
Yeah, exactly. It's made to be made in a reminiscent way of how the Trappist monks did it in the Middle Ages. So it's one of my favorite beers. It's my go-to fancy Canadian beer.
Oh, I'm excited.
It's always a crowd pleaser.
Mm-hmm. It looks fancy.
It's moderately fancy.
Well, you've just been killing it on the poison stick.
Anything with a cork in it, really.
Here it comes.
That startled me.
Oh, yeah. That showed up nice.
Good sound effect.
So we each get a bit of this.
No, I'm excited.
One
I am
big
excited.
bottle.
That's a huge bottle.
It's a big bottle. It's also a very high alcohol beer.
What is that in? 8?
9.
9.
Nice.
It smells decent.
It's so good.
A toast to toast?
Okay, let's do toast.
Toast.
Sorry,
It's crunchy and warm. Ding.
Clink, clink.
You're crunchy and warm.
I'll accept those. Yeah.
That is
that's nice.
really good.
Beer. Good beer.
Well, it tastes
yeasty.
It's a yeasty. It's a little bit. Yeah, it's kind of yeasty, and it's sweeter. Like it's more citrusy.
Hold on.
I'd say.
I think if you drank the whole bottle, you'd be pretty good and drunk by the time you were done.
It is a golden ale, mildly yeasty, with notes of malt, fruit, and spice, followed by a smooth, dry finish.
It is a dry finish.
You can taste the fruit.
It reminds me a little of the mead. A little bit.
Yeah, from what I recall of the mead.
Is there any of that mead left?
Oh, yes.
I still haven't tried it.
I know. It has a really, it kind of, as you swallow it, kind of coats the back of your throat in a really pleasant way.
That's what she said.
Oh, yes.
Oh.
I really like it.
Yeah, I like
something creamy head.
I don't know. It's crisp. It's refreshing. I'm going to give this a 9 out of 10. I really like it.
And we're drinking it out of wine glasses, so it feels extra fancy.
It does. It feels extra fancy. I'd give it like an 8.5 out of 10. Like I really like it.
Yeah. And it's really fresh and foamy. Like it's nice.
Fresh
to drink.
and foamy?
Oh, yes.
I give it 2 donkey punches and a dirty Sanchez over 4 or 5 frothy walruses.
Is that good?
It's in the middle somewhere.
Sweet.
I rate this probably like a 7 out of 10 because it's a really good beer, but beer's not my favorite.
Oh, I love beer.
The Fifth Estate.
Good evening. I'm Gillian Findlay, and welcome to the Fifth Estate. Sometime within the next few weeks, one of the most notorious criminals in this country will be released from prison after serving a sentence that many still believe was far too lenient for the crimes she committed. Karla Homolka, along with her then-husband Paul Bernardo, murdered 3 young women, one of them her own sister. Bernardo will likely spend the rest of his life in prison, but Karla Homolka struck a plea bargain deal with the Ontario Crown. In exchange for help convicting Bernardo, she received a far lighter sentence. Several years ago, the Fifth Estate investigated that deal and raised many serious questions about how and why it was made. But before we begin, a warning. Some of the subject matter of our story is very disturbing. Parents are advised that what follows is not suitable for children, and some adults may find it distressing too.
So today on Occultae Veritatis, I will be covering the infamous Canadian serial killing duo of Karla Homolka and Paul Bernardo.
This is seriously, like, if you're not Canadian, this is like the Canadian version of everything you've ever had. Like, these people are famous in our country for being sick fucks.
Yeah.
So listen carefully. This shit's crazy.
This was a really big
Yeah,
one.
this is wild. This is a
Blew
wild
up
story.
huge.
So I'm going to start with their early lives, moving through all the horrific crimes they committed, followed by a where they are now.
Mm-hmm.
So Paul Bernardo was born into a wealthy but dysfunctional family. His mother, Marilyn, who had been adopted by a well-to-do Toronto lawyer named Gerald Eastman, and his wife Elizabeth, was raised in a stable household. But his father, Kenneth, was the son of an English woman and an Italian immigrant who created a highly successful marble and tile business, but was abusive to his wife and children. Instead of entering the family business, Kenneth Bernardo became an accountant. After her father had disapproved of an earlier boyfriend, Marilyn Eastman married Bernardo in 1960. So it's kind of the meshing of like an upper class whatever family and an upper class kind of fucky family.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Yeah. Like his father, Kenneth Bernardo was said to be abusive. Marilyn, after having given birth to a son and a daughter, began seeing a former boyfriend. She became pregnant and gave birth to Paul Kenneth Bernardo on August 27th, 1964. Kenneth Bernardo tolerated his wife's affair and is listed as the biological father on Paul's birth certificate. In 1975, Kenneth Bernardo fondled a girl and was charged with child molestation. He also sexually abused his own daughter.
Christ.
So this is not a super stable environment to be growing up in.
Yeah, not great.
Yeah. Bernardo's mother became depressed over her husband's abuse, withdrew from family life, and lived in the basement of their Scarborough home. Though the elder children felt the effects of the emotional and mental turmoil, young Paul appeared to be unscathed by it. In his book, Lethal Marriage, a man named Nick Prawn described the young Bernardo. He was always happy, a young boy who smiled a lot. He was so cute with his dimpled good looks and sweet smile that many of the mothers just wanted to pinch him on the cheek whenever they saw him. He was the perfect child they all wanted. Polite, well-mannered, doing well in school, so sweet in his Boy Scout uniform.
That's something I think about a lot. Is all the
Scouts in their uniforms.
Well,
get out.
Oh boy.
But what darkness lurks in the hearts of men?
I guess imagining all these like crooked politicians and evil people and killers like as happy little kids.
Yeah, like Paul Bernardo was by all accounts a happy kid, even though he was like the product of an affair and also raised in a household where sexual abuse and physical abuse occurred.
Still probably a kid that rode just like, I mean, like everybody just was a kid that rode bikes at some point, though.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
weird,
Yeah. Following an argument between his parents when Bernardo was 16, his mother told him of his actual parentage, so he didn't know until he was 16.
Oh boy.
Oh,
Yeah.
dear.
So repulsed, he began openly to call his mother slob and whore.
Oh
Wow.
Jesus.
Yeah, so that was no good. Bernardo graduated from Sir Wilfrid Laurier Collegiate Institute, opting to work for Amway.
Oh goody.
Yeah, Amway, which, if you don't know, it's a super multi-level marketing, predatory, pyramid scheming kind of thing.
I've got that one on my short list because I have two good friends that have fallen victim to Amway.
I think.
And the Amway sales culture had a deep effect on him. He bought the books and tapes of famous motivational get-rich-and-famous experts. Bernardo and his friends practiced their techniques on young women they met in bars and were fairly successful.
With their sales techniques?
With their pickup techniques that they used alongside their sales tech. Like, they use their sales techniques to turn them into pickup techniques.
Yeah, I suppose they're similar.
Yeah.
I once sold funeral packages.
Really?
Yeah, and I used my sex appeal to do it.
I couldn't do that.
I sold vacuums.
I could do vacuums. I couldn't do funeral
I
packages.
made a killing on selling vacuums. I was so good at it.
I sold
It was disgusting.
tombstones.
What did you do, like door to door, like by phone? Or?
Well, basically, poor people would get called and be like, if you answered this survey, you'll get a free gift. Well, with the free gift came me giving you an hour and a half vacuum demonstration.
Right.
You know, graveyards are really popular.
We have
people are dying to get in there.
They are.
Like, we have
I know some people would be really spinning in their graves over that one.
Get out.
Oh, yeah.
Both of you, get out. By the time Bernardo attended University of Toronto Scarborough, he had developed dark sexual fantasies, enjoyed humiliating women in public, and beat up the women he dated.
So, question for you.
Yes.
You kill someone, they're dead, they're good and rotten.
Mm-hmm.
You want to fuck them. Do you use the currently available holes, or because they're good and squishy, you carve additional holes between their ribs and stuff like
probably
that?
the existing holes would be better.
Or would they be squishier? Like too squishy?
Too loose. Would the ribs be tighter? Would they be a more pleasurable experience to rib fuck a dead person?
This is gross. I don't know. I can't even think about it.
This is where your story
I feel like there's a lot
Sorry.
of bones in the ribs, though. You know.
As long as I have what
about the ear
a
hole
stomach
or
in the
eye
middle?
sockets?
Well, it depends how much is decayed, I guess.
A moderate amount of decay.
This is healthcare. This is what healthcare does to you.
I get creepy shivers when I find a piece of bread with mold on it, so I don't think I would be able to deal with that shit.
Yeah, me neither.
I would pick the eye sockets.
Like I said, already kind of be
I would pick not doing it. I leave the graveyard.
Yeah. You shoot something into a tissue and you call it a day.
Yeah.
That was what I found on Paul Bernardo, but Karla was a whole different ballgame.
Yes, she was.
I found a fuck ton of information on young Karla, which is why I'm splitting this episode up. So,
Young Karla sounds like a rapper name.
I know, right?
It's not.
Young
It's a fucking fuck. She's weird.
Yeah,
Yep.
It's really sad. Okay, Karla Homolka was born May 4th, 1970.
I'm kind of sexually attracted to her.
Well, she's pretty.
I think
She's a beautiful woman.
We'll eventually do an episode on serial killer groupies as well. So
oh yeah, that'd be a good one.
We'll dive into that.
Yeah, of course that would be a thing.
Oh yes.
Oh, totally is a
yeah,
thing.
of course it's a thing.
She was born May 4th, 1970 to Czechoslovakian immigrant Karla Homolka and Dorothy Sanger of Ontario. Karel made a living as a traveling salesman, selling black velvet paintings and lighting fixtures from the sidewalks of shopping centers and malls. So he was just like a salesman. She says with derision. Sorry.
I'm really good at selling vacuums, but fuck salesmen.
Yeah.
Fuck salesmen.
I used to sell used cars, and I still hate salesmen, so it's all good.
I only ever did customer support, so I was the guy you dealt with.
I also worked in
sales.
malls and sold clothes to people and shoes. I sold shoes at Sears.
I sold memberships at the YMCA.
Oh, and I sold premium accounts to Bank of America, and I was a telemarketer for a bit.
Oh, I guess I did. Well, I didn't do telemarketing. I did surveys.
Oh, yeah.
I used to phone people in Louisiana just after Hurricane Katrina and tell them that they needed to pay their credit card bill or collections was coming for them.
Holy shit.
No.
I was tax support for a tax software during tax season.
Oh, no.
Well, sounds busy.
It was so much worse than you're imagining.
Yeah.
So Karla Homolka was asthmatic, which resulted in frequent hospitalization during her childhood.
That means has asthma, right?
Yeah, she has asthma. Her
asthma.
Her attack seemed to be triggered by any type of situation where she felt excited or frightened, such as birthdays, holidays, or the first day of school.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. So according to Karla's mother, Dorothy, this obstacle didn't stop Karla from blossoming. She walked and talked at an early age. By third grade, Karla was given an IQ test where she scored a quotient of 131, which demonstrated conclusively that she was indeed a very bright girl.
I'm smarter than her.
So am I.
So am I.
I don't know. I've taken the shitty internet one, but I haven't taken the real
one.
one.
No, it doesn't say me.
I haven't taken a real one.
You need to see a psychologist.
Yeah. I took the real one like once a long time ago, and I'm just going to keep using that score forever.
That's right, because you only get stupider after that.
Don't think I'm going to get that high again.
No, you
What's yours?
It was like 130 some, I forget.
153.
135, I think it was.
I don't know if I want to know.
Yeah, no, Sage is the smartest person here. I was tested, like my best score was when I was 11, and then I took the RCMP Police Aptitude Battery and still qualified for Mensa, and took the Canadian Forces Aptitude Test and still qualified for Mensa, but not nearly as close as I did when I was 11 years old.
I think mine was 11, and then I took it again when I was like 19, and I still had 153.
God, guys, we're all just so great.
I know. Let's
my
just all
God.
jerk each other off because we're so fucking smart.
Can I sell you a Mensa membership?
Well, I got invited to Mensa, but I didn't go because it was like a boys' club.
No, it's not a boys' club anymore. We have meetings in at Winston's in the library room.
Oh, maybe I should go.
I'm pretty well versed with the first 151 Pokemon.
You and me both, my
same,
friend.
Same, man. Yeah. Hell yeah.
Okay, so back to Karla. For the sake of reference, an IQ score of 135 is associated with the 98th percentile. Karla's teachers described her as eager and a good student. One of Karla's friends from second grade at Parnell Public School notes that at this early age she was constantly drawing houses. She was always the first one to be seated at her desk, the first one back from recess, and the first one to start with her work. So she's a keener.
Oh, goody.
Like me. She seemed almost fanatical when drawing her little houses and was preoccupied with even unnaturally intent on staying within the lines. So she was super perfectionist.
Interesting.
Thus, this early snapshot of Karla seems to reveal that at a tender age, she was already obsessive, but not in a bad way. A hard worker and perfectionist, more focused perhaps on pleasing the authority figures than on conforming to the expectations of her peers.
She was kind of that kid in class that everybody low-key hated.
Yeah, like me. Okay. Yeah. Karla showed a soft spot for animals, even at this young age. Once, when some boys on the playground were tormenting a beetle with a stick, Karla rushed in to the aid of the insect and screamed, "You shouldn't kill it. It's wrong to kill anything."
Oh, boy.
Yeah. As she got to know her better, Karla's new friend started to see that she was a bit bossy and wanted things to be done her way. She wanted to be pushed on the swings. She wanted to go down the slide first. And she demanded that her new friend come spend time with her at her home on Linwell Road. The friend couldn't help wondering how much the two girls had in common. At this stage, Karla dressed only in pink frilly dresses and was downright prissy, while the friend was a tomboy, a hockey fan in the best Canadian tradition. Some got stereotypes.
Yeah.
The friend wasn't surprised when she arrived at the Homolka house and found Karla waiting for her with over a dozen Barbie and Ken dolls. Yeah. Karla told her friend that everything about her Barbies was and had to be perfect. Their clothes, their hair, even their undergarments. The friend recalls Karla fantasizing that one day she would have the perfect life, which would include a handsome husband, not unlike Ken. In retrospect, it wasn't much of a playdate for the friend. Karla insisted on rigidly controlling the game. She decided what the Barbies did, where they went, and what they wore, what words came out of their little Barbie mouths.
Oh, jeez.
When the friend suggested a new or different storyline, Karla reacted huffily and immediately put the Barbies away. So it was like my way or the highway.
Jesus.
Even from a young age playing with Barbies.
Usually people like that just want to, I guess, be by themselves? Or do they want somebody there to manipulate?
I think that's kind of what she did.
Oh,
she wanted someone to play with her, but she wanted to control everything that happened.
Yeah, you think about it. She goes from, I need to control everything with the Barbies. Well, this is boring now. I need to bring someone in so that, like...
I can control them, too.
I can control them, and they can see me controlling the Barbies. And
yeah.
It's the whole thing.
Yeah. So based on this evidence, it's clear that at the age of 7 or 8, Karla was bossy, controlling, and obsessive. This early pattern of selfishness was, of course, her bête noire, which would ultimately lead her to take the part of committing the awful crimes that essentially shocked the world.
Jesus.
Right.
The friend's dog, Buster, the friend didn't want to be named, obviously. The friend's dog, Buster, hated everyone on the planet except for little Karla, who seemed to have a way with animals.
I'm already really attached to this dog. Please don't tell me something bad happens to it.
Oh, no.
Karla claimed that she had a dog named Lester, an obvious falsehood, which drew stares from the family. Strangely, around this time, animal lover Karla decided that it would be fun to make a pillowcase parachute and toss her friend's hamster from an upper story bedroom window.
No!
The parachute obviously malfunctioned, and the hamster hit the ground hard and died 2 weeks later.
No.
I know.
Oh, suffering for 2 weeks?
Yeah, really.
Christ.
Sorry. After the hamster had been interred for a while, Karla decided it would be fun to dig up the little pet's corpse and see what the decomposed body looked like. She stared at it for a long time and exclaimed, "Gross." So we could chalk that up either to some sort of like a morbid curiosity with death, or just like being a kid and being like, hey, what does a dead hamster look like?
Yeah.
Well, she wanted to see what the eye sockets were like.
Boo, that's enough. Blah. This behavior is, it of course is somewhat reminiscent of Jeffrey Dahmer. It was reminiscent of his well-known obsession with dead and decomposing bodies. The killing of the hamster would be termed an accidental homicide. Or perhaps an involuntary manslaughter. In any event, it appears to be the first time Karla killed a living creature, and is an early example of her rapidly evolving penchant for cruelty. When she was 10, this is all before she was 10.
Jesus.
When she was 10, Karla accompanied a friend whom she later gifted with a book called Brainchild by noted behaviorist B.F. Skinner to the park to play baseball one afternoon. While the friends played, Karla became fascinated with a small girl playing in the outfield. The girl's arms were deformed half the normal length. Karla walked up to the girl's brother and shouted, "Your sister's a freak. She's creepy looking.
Fuck you.
She's got seal arms and belongs in a zoo."
Jesus.
Yeah.
Well, if you were a seal, that's where you would belong.
This made the boy and the small girl cry. And Karla clearly got satisfaction out of making the two cry. So this incident also reveals her growing pleasure in hurting others.
Oh boy, seeds. Seeds are planted.
Yeah, things are starting to blossom. So around the age of 12, Karla became obsessed with the Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew mysteries.
I fucking love the Hardy Boys.
I lived for Nancy Drew.
What are the Hardy? I know what Nancy Drew is.
Hardy
what are the
Boys.
Hardy Boys?
They're a pair of the Hardy Boys. They're brothers. Written by Franklin W. Dixon, and it's a serialized group of books about these boy detectives. And one of the books mentions Saskatoon.
It's the boy version of Nancy Drew.
Yeah, basically.
Very much so. Yeah. And Chet Corey is their fat friend.
At around the age of 12, Karla became obsessed with the Hardy Boys and the Nancy Drew mysteries. She bought a crime-fighting kit and vowed that she would grow up to be a policewoman. Karla and her friend met again.
That didn't go so well.
Oh boy.
Kind of went the other way.
On second thought.
Yeah. Upon further review. So Karla and her friend met again when they were approximately 13 years old. Karla had asked if she could bring her Barbie dolls over.
Oh no.
Yeah, the same friend. But her friend had stated that they were getting too old to be playing with dolls.
Oh no.
They met up at Grace Lutheran Church, and to her surprise, the friend noticed that Karla was hardly dressed in Barbie-like fashion. On the contrary, she was dressed in black from head to toe and was wearing black Doc Marten boots. Also noticeable was Karla's new hairstyle. Gone was her beautiful, naturally golden hair, replaced by a multicolored look. Her teeth seemed kind of yucky, which Karla blamed on her asthma medication. The friend recalled that Karla seemed distant and moody and barely smiled. She wore dark eye makeup and black nail polish and seemed to be affecting a goth look, which who didn't?
Yeah, we all went through that.
I didn't.
I didn't.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was
fuck you guys.
I was too much of a soft boy to be a goth.
Oh, I was such a goth.
I dyed my hair black a few times.
Yeah. I've had my hair
Oh,
every color.
Oh god, I bleached my hair in 5th grade.
Oh yeah.
Okay, I'm glad that you don't have bleached hair now.
Yes,
that wouldn't be a cute look. Friends at Ferndale Public School have noted that Karla loved shocking people by screaming obscenities for no reason.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
See, I enjoy that.
I can see the appeal.
I used to do that too.
I'm too non-confrontational, so I don't do it. But I get that.
Yeah. She was also the only one of her peers to talk back to her parents and slam doors during arguments.
I definitely did that.
Yep.
So did I. Sometimes it was hard to tell who was the parent and who was the child. A friend named Lisa Stanton described Karla as loud and stubborn and willful. She refused to ever admit that she could possibly be wrong and never back down on anything for any reason. So that all sounds pretty typical of like my high school years.
Yeah.
And I didn't murder anyone.
Yeah, I know a few people like that.
Oh, did you though?
No, I didn't, I promise. Lisa said, you couldn't push her into anything. It didn't matter if you were a parent, teacher, friend, or stranger. Karla always spoke her mind. If she was mad about something, she would let you know about it. Some sources remarked that Karla was a daddy's girl most of the time. If her mother, Dorothy, refused to give her what she wanted, she would simply ask dear old daddy Karel. However, when Karel drank, he had the bad habit of calling Karla a whore or a slut.
Oh, boy.
Yuck.
As you do.
Yeah. This, however, was only after Karla had begun dating Paul Bernardo. Karel was the only man in the house full of strong-willed women and would often retreat to the basement when he felt outnumbered. Karla and her younger sister Lori were known to scream "fuck off" at Karel, and they would call him a dumb Czech when they didn't get their way.
A dumb Czech?
Yeah, because they were like the dad was from Czechoslovakia.
CZ.
Yeah, CZ,
which is now the Czech Republic and Slovakia.
And Slovakia. When Lori was sick, they didn't get their way. Karla, however, was kind and attentive to Lori. When Lori was sick with the flu and Karla's parents were gone for the day, Karla gave Lori a little bell to ring whenever she needed something or merely wanted attention. So she seemed pretty attached to her sister.
Yeah.
The summer before high school, Karla began cruising around town with her friends. Karla had the audacity to wave at boys in cars whom she felt were attractive.
Oh, the harlot.
I've picked up so many people in cars in high school like that, so I don't know.
That woman of the night, she.
Yeah. She had no compunction about striking up conversations with complete strangers. Once Karla entered high school, she exhibited all the usual symptoms of a typical depressed adolescent, albeit a boy-crazy depressed adolescent. She anguished over the opposite sex. She told friends that boys were her main concern and that school was a drag. Fair enough. She told her style of dress grew increasingly non-conforming. She wore long johns and boxer shorts, complete with ballet slippers, to Sir Winston Churchill Secondary School.
Sounds really comfy.
Yeah, just mixing it up, I guess.
Made her stand out like a sore thumb, so she just kind of wore whatever the fuck she wanted.
Multiple underwear, that's a power move.
Yeah. The school was considered to be mainly a preppy school, and the majority of the students were well off. Karla didn't try to hide the fact that she disliked the preps, and the diehard preps hated her.
Is prep like a Canadian slang, or is that universal slang?
I've never heard
I think it's universal
Is
slang.
it universal?
Yeah, it is. It's like college preparatory students, like the people who are really preppy, like
rich,
super into, like, I'm going to go to college and get a degree and a good job.
And Daddy will let me take his boat in the lake house.
Oh, my time's far too important for you.
Yeah.
Daddy bought me a white Ferrari, and when I wanted a red Ferrari, Daddy get me a red Ferrari.
I grew up poor.
Yeah.
yeah, same bud.
I grew up pretty rich, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't have like new clothing until after I had a job in high school. I literally never owned an article of new clothing.
I grew up middle class.
Yeah. We were poor for like a minute, and then my dad started his own business, and then we were rich. So I basically, for most of my life, been pretty well off. Karla gave the impression that she didn't really care of what anyone thought of her. She was bound and determined to be her own person. Friend Kevin Jacoby remembers Karla as open and honest. She was seen as someone weird or different who didn't hold back and always said whatever was on her mind. Once in high school, Karla seemed to live in two worlds and would certainly exhibit mood swings. Her friends recalled that at times she seemed elated and would speak enthusiastically about going to university, becoming a veterinarian, or an undercover police officer. At other times, she would hardly speak at all for weeks at a time. Karla often spoke about killing herself, and once revealed a small slit moving horizontally across her wrists. Yeah. If it was a suicide attempt, it was a feeble attempt, and her friends remarked that they were sure that it was just to get attention.
It's the wrong way.
Yeah, it's the wrong way. Karla also claimed that she tried to overdose on sleeping pills. Her peers struggled to understand how someone as vain as Karla, who is constantly looking at herself in the mirror and fixing her hair, could apparently have such contempt for their own life, which is kind of stupid because, like, me too.
I mean, like, insecurity and... Yeah, no, like, that falls hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
Karla talked frequently about her favorite movies, which were mostly horror flicks. Friday the 13th made a big impression on her, and she loved the storyline about the young virgins being slashed and hacked up by a sociopath. Sweet. Karla got a part-time job at the #1 pet center, feeding and watering the animals.
You know what? I'm not going to judge that because some people are just really into horror movies, and that's cool.
I love horror movies. Yeah.
I hate them.
I can't believe that you hate them.
No, I'm absolutely not into them. It's mostly because I just can't take them seriously, though.
I'm indifferent.
I think they're funny.
Yeah, me too. I burst out laughing.
That's why I like
it.
them.
Yeah,
I scare way too easily. Like my nerves are shot as is. I don't need that.
My one friend's really into it.
Yeah.
I've seen it in the theaters multiple times. You know.
The book is better.
I watched it and I didn't tell him. I guess he's gonna know now. But I laughed my way through it. I thought it was hilarious.
Have you read the book?
No, I haven't.
Kay.
I've heard the book is really good.
The book is really good. If you need to borrow it, I have it.
Probably I would get way more into the book.
The book is so good.
Stephen King, right?
Yeah.
I would absolutely borrow that.
Okay, well I'll bring it for you next time because it's a really good book.
Sweet.
Where were we? Kevin Jacoby, the friend that I mentioned earlier, remembers Karla phoning frequently, crying and depressed. She complained about the volatile relationship at home with her father, who was frequently drunk. She described fights between her parents and her fights with her mother. Everything she did or said was taken in the worst possible way. So that's, I don't know, it sounds pretty typical to me so far.
Yeah, it seems like she has a lot of the problems that a lot of teenagers have, like indifference and clashing with parents.
And wanting to be like your own person and kind of striking out from what your parents expect of you.
Fighting between independence and dependence.
Mm-hmm.
Standard struggles.
Yeah. So in contrast to this picture of a depressed, negative, and brooding Karla, her mother Dorothy described Karla as a smart, sweet, active, fun-loving, outgoing, a leader, an investigator, academically and socially successful, and always surrounded by friends.
That was her mom?
That was her mom.
Well, go figure.
Yeah. She liked to spend quiet time to recharge her batteries and loved to read and think. Dorothy did admit, however, mind you, something did change when Karla got to high school. So during this period, Karla Homolka told Linda Wallace that he was in love with her and wanted to leave Dorothy. Linda told him to go home and keep his mouth shut. Apparently, Karla failed to do so. In any event, Dorothy went to Linda the next day and told her, "You could save my marriage if you sleep with both of us."
Oh, no.
Nobody knows exactly how this might have affected Karla or if she even knew. But it was well known that Karla was called the pervert at the Sharver faith-based geriatric clinic where Dorothy worked. Karla developed an interest in the occult when she entered high school, like you do.
Mm-hmm.
Her friend Amanda said they would burn candles and incense and talk about spirits and the screaming tunnels when they were near the railroad tracks outside of town.
Ooh. Screaming tunnels?
Karla placed an ad in the papers to buy an Ouija board. Like you do.
Yeah.
Her friend Debbie Purdy stated, "When we were in high school, she was a little rebel. Nobody ever told Karla what to do or what to think. She was her own person and her own boss." Karla studied music and took voice lessons, but she would not sing in front of the class. Friends noticed strange circles carved into her arm and filled in with nail polish.
Oof.
Yeah. Karla inscribed in a book, Michelle Remembers. Remember from my last episode?
Yes.
The Martinsville Satanic Panic episode.
Yes.
Which is about Satanism, sexual abuse, and the repressed memory. She said, "There is always something more left to say." Karla admitted that in grade 10, she smoked dope and experimented with white crosses, which is an upper, kind of like a whatever upper, like a mild to moderate.
Yeah, fucking degenerate smoking dope.
Like you do.
He says.
So Karla once told her friend Tracy Collins, "You know what I'd like to do? I'd like to put dots all over somebody's body and take a knife and play connect the dots and then pour vinegar all over them."
Oh,
Jesus.
Yeah. So Tracy reported that to her parents, who logically enough would no longer let her associate with Karla. Fair enough.
Good call.
They said she was strange and domineering, and that Tracy's grades had slipped during the period of their friendship. So Karla kind of took control of their friendship and took control of Tracy's life.
Yikes.
Karla dated a boy named Doug in grade 12. He found her to be moody and consumed with the thought of death. She was constantly threatening suicide. When Doug moved to, of all places, Kansas, Karla, against her parents' wishes, flew there to visit him. Karla admitted to drinking Purple Jesus grain alcohol and snorting cocaine.
What?
Yeah, Purple Jesus, apparently that's what it's called. And she snorted cocaine, which, Karla...
Like you do.
Yeah, like you do. Karla told her friends that she had lost her virginity with Doug and described a shocking and unlikely scene that involved bondage, dog collars, extremely dirty talk, at least for middle-class teenagers, and strangulation.
Mm.
And that being said, as long as you're into that and you're with a consenting partner, off you go.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Cool.
Wouldn't be for me.
Yeah, as long as you're consenting, go for it. But I doubt that Karla at this time was experienced enough to be into that.
Yeah.
According to the more conventionally minded Doug, they only had normal sex.
Define normal, clearly.
Probably more missionary.
Yeah.
But she seemed to want to sensationalize the loss of her virginity, whereas the boy that she allegedly lost her virginity to, which I'm not sure why it's such a big event. I don't know. But apparently it was for her. She wanted to make it seem more edgy than it actually was. As Karla related the story to her friends, they noticed that she was detached and displayed no emotion. They wondered who she would get involved with next time. It was clear at that point that unless something or someone stopped her, Karla was headed toward a place that few of us would like to visit. At the end of senior year, Karla inscribed a friend's yearbook, "Remember, suicide kicks and fasting is awesome. Bones rule, death rules, death kicks. I love death. Kill the fucking world."
Jesus.
Whoa.
Yeah. It's a little intense.
That's like a manifesto.
Right?
Yeah.
So oddly, while all of this was going on, Karla and her friends, Debbie Purdy, Kathy Wilson, and Lisa Stanton, formed the exclusive Diamond Club. Their goal was to recruit rich, good-looking older men, obtain the coveted diamond, marry, and live happily ever after. Friend Kathy Wilson remarked on the fact that Karla was the tough one of the group. She kept a pair of handcuffs hanging on her bedroom wall and told her friends she was going to become a police officer. So that's all that I have for today, and we will continue it next time.
I would build a great wall, and nobody builds walls better than me, believe me.
Fuck you, asshole.
Call out an asshole.
Oh no, it's me. That's why you brought me here. Oh no.
No, we love you. My call out an asshole is RuPaul Charles. So if anyone loves RuPaul's Drag Race, yeah, okay, RuPaul is a transphobic garbage man.
That shocks me.
Really?
I don't know. I don't know. I guess I never knew his stance on anything like that, but I guess I just assumed that he would be inclusive.
You'd think that what he literally said was he's cool with trans women being on the show as long as they haven't done anything physical.
Okay.
So if you have a boob job, you're out. Even though half of the queens on his show have had their butts done and have had their boobs done and had their their cheeks done and stuff. Which fine, whatever, I don't care. Yeah. But don't say that about trans women. It's super transphobic, and he should know better, I think.
I felt like the message there was always just do yourself, be yourself, 100%.
Unless you're a trans woman who has had a science vagina done or something.
Science vagina sounds
I like
awesome.
that.
That is a really
Science
good.
vagina.
That is a really good name for an album.
Science vagina. I stole that from Kelly Wright of the Gaytheist Manifesto.
Oh
podcast.
yes.
Mm-hmm. That's what her and her partner Celeste have called their science vaginas. So stole it from them. But yes, so RuPaul Charles, it's really disappointing because you the whole theme of the show is like, if you can't love yourself, then how is anyone else going to love you or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
He is very transphobic and small-minded about this kind of stuff. So that's really disappointing, and he is my asshole.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like he was, singing a song of acceptance and all that.
Yeah, well, like when there have been trans women on his show, like in this last season, there was a queen named Peppermint who is a trans woman, but she hadn't had any like surgical stuff done. He was cool with that, but he said that he would never have a trans woman on the show who has had some sort of like a gender confirmation surgery done.
Alteration surgery, yeah.
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know, because he's
stupid. Selective transphobia.
Right? It's really selective transphobia, and it's transphobia masqueraded as acceptance.
That's odd.
Yeah, and it's really disappointing.
And it I don't know. Usually when I run into that stuff, it comes from a place of like, oh, they're not real women/men, blah blah blah. But like, you think somebody who runs a show about like body positivity and cross-dressing and loving yourself and all that stuff, you think that he would be more aware of stuff like that.
Well, and he said that as soon as it becomes a woman who is cross-dressing, it kind of loses its like punk rock-ness. He said it's really punk rock when men dress up as women. Like that's the whole gender bending kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that was his rationale for not having
punk
trans
rock.
women. Even though trans women made up the majority of the first drag queens to be able to pay for their surgeries if that's what they chose to do. And you'd think that he would actually know his history, because like I'm cis. Like I was born with a vagina, identify as a woman, and I know this. Like, what the fuck is his excuse?
I guess it just reminds you that you have to keep vigilant out there and not assume that someone is an ally and someone is progressive just because they seem like they should be.
Or they may be progressive in one thing but totally regressive in another.
Yeah. Like I'm sure I hold views like that right now, and I hope that when I utter them that somebody corrects me.
Well, exactly.
I think that this raises a really interesting question. Does the negativity of the transphobia negate the positivity of the other messages on the show?
Well, he was called out on, like, he called he-male or she-male. He had a thing on his show, and when they got a message from RuPaul, it would have like a siren and say, "Ooh, you've got she-male," which is pretty transphobic. Yeah. And they've since changed it, which is, I guess, baby steps. But he still seems super clueless. Like he just doesn't get it.
Yeah, he doesn't get it. He doesn't understand what he's doing wrong.
Yeah.
And that's not to say he's a bad person. He's just really fucking stupid and clueless.
Just ignorant.
And old, right? Like he was one of the first New York club kids. Like RuPaul Charles did pave the way for a lot of drag queens to pump up to the mainstream. Like I'd be lying if I said I didn't watch RuPaul's Drag Race.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you just have to remain vigilant. Like another example out there is Caitlyn Jenner. Like after Caitlyn Jenner. Yeah. After she got her gender confirmed and after she got her surgery, she went on to express homophobic views and about her distrust and of gay marriage. And
yeah, that was disappointing.
Yeah.
But I guess like no one's perfect, right?
Yeah.
So I guess you can criticize Caitlyn Jenner and not
and
do
there
it in a
are
transphobic.
Trans Republicans.
Anyone can be ignorant. It doesn't mean that they're bad. It just means that they're ignorant.
But
it doesn't mean that they're not bad either. It's just...
But if you had someone call you out on it, be like, oh, well, maybe there's something that I don't know about this, and maybe I should look into it. Because like, I used to say that's so gay.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like when I was in high school.
Oh, it was the time.
Yeah, well, but still, like, I don't say that anymore.
No, yeah.
And I also used to think like, oh, I don't mind gay people as long as they aren't gay in my face. But now I've completely changed my stance on that because like,
oh, don't you just hate those flaming gays?
Yeah, like like I'm bi, so like what was my problem back then? Maybe I'm like, I don't know.
I was very homophobic because I was bi.
Maybe that's why I was like, I don't know. But I've adjusted my views based on the growth, like my own personal growth. So like, not saying that I'm like the most amazing person, because I'm sure that I still hold some shitty views on some things, but
I think the culture around us has grown a lot too, and I think that that kind of echoes back in each of us.
Right. Yeah. And I can only hope that like my son will be even better than all of us. And like I'm sure that he will be.
Yeah.
Or she will be, like, whatever.
I mean, we're all on a continuum, and I hope I'm going towards some type of improvement. Like, I've gone from fundamentalist to a conspiracy theorist to men's rights activist to being involved in the pickup culture to finally, like, being in, skepticism and progressivism and feminism.
Yeah, you've had a whirlwind tour.
Yeah, you used to be into the whole pickup culture thing.
Yep.
Yep. I had heard that about you, but I never knew you in that time. That was very surprising to me.
Oh,
right?
Yeah. I think that's why I'm really apprehensive now, and I guess I'm cautious about new things, and I'm always trying to challenge my own views, is because I've been wrong so many times that I fear being wrong again in a huge way, I
think being introspective never hurts, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, good one.
Yeah.
Good call out an asshole.
All right.
Okay. Tonight's palate cleanser is Cabin Fever by Spooky Scary.
Ooh.
They're 4 decent dudes out of Saskatoon. After over 2 years of writing, they released their debut EP back in 2016. Their vocalist / guitarist, Adam, asked me to plug something in Saskatoon here. It's called Take Something and Run.
Cool.
It's a local organization dedicated to youth music and art. And they organize all ages concerts right here in Saskatoon, featuring performers of every style and genre, from like solo acoustic acts to 5-piece hardcore groups and everything in between. They run concerts mostly at the Underground Cafe, and whether you're a performer or just looking to see some local talent, you should check them out. You can find them on Facebook, and you can find Spooky Scary's EP at Bandcamp. Good to foster like the youth talent and everything too.
Yeah, that's super important.
It gives people who wouldn't really otherwise have an opportunity to actually get up on stage and play stuff. So
yeah,
really
and
cool.
have an audience.
Yeah.
I mean, really, manual labor is being taken over by automation, so I think the arts are going to be the future.
Yep. I like that. That's kind of poetic.
Yeah, I know.
Nice.
I'm half drunk, so
Poetic Good is coming out.
Oh, yes.
That's exciting. Yeah, like I think that's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, this is going to be Cabin Fever by Spooky Scary.
Back to my
Alrighty, good show so far. You know, it kind of brings up the aspects of nature versus nurture. Was Karla always the way she was, or did something in her environment or her childhood make her the way she was? And same thing with Paul Bernardo. It's always interesting to bring up those arguments. But yeah, Paul Bernardo and Karla Homolka are two famous people from Canada, really. They're probably the most well-known Canadian serial killers, so it's kind of nice to present them to a wider world. Of course, true crime fanatics out there are going to be already aware of these guys, but it's always interesting to pass the story on to a new audience. Anyways, we have a piece of mail, and the funny thing is, it's addressed from somebody named Stevie Wonder, and coincidentally enough, today, May 13th, is Stevie Wonder's 68th birthday. So, I'm sure the real Stevie Wonder isn't interested in our podcast, or maybe they are. I don't know, Stevie. Happy birthday if you are, I suppose. But Stevie Wonder writes, Dear Ood, Sage, and Leon, I listened to your last episode on Nazi medical experiments, and I can't help but think you guys passed over all the medical benefits that came from these studies, even though they're horrific, and even though people were put at harm and death and torture in the end. I feel that a lot of good scientific advancements came from these experiments. It's one of the only good parts and one of the only silver linings of the Second World War. I really do get the motivation, Stevie. Like, I get why you want that to be the truth. You want to think that, you know, all these people suffered, but their suffering was not in vain because something good came out of it in the end, and their studying led to the saving of many lives afterwards. And in some cases, like the hypothermia studies and the air pressure studies, some of that is a little bit true. Some of the findings found in the air pressure and the hypothermia studies went on to be used to prepare people for high altitudes and cold weather conditions, but only a minority of it. And that's because when the Second World War broke out, a lot of the top-level scientists, doctors, engineers, educated people saw the way the tide was turning and split from Germany. A lot of them went into hiding, and those that didn't were often conscripted to be in the army in a non-research capacity. They did not want to do research for the German army. Those that remained were a mix of the elite scientists, engineers, the minority that actually believed in the Nazi propaganda and wanted to enact it. Those will be like our main figures covered in that episode. But with them were a bunch of mediocre engineers and doctors that were often brought in from other disciplines or other areas of study or other areas of engineering and put to work studying and doing research on stuff that wasn't their area of expertise. And this led, as Cammie said during our episode, to just an eruption of bad science. And bad science can't be used. You can't use the findings and the figures discovered when the proper controls and the proper area around a study isn't tightly controlled. If you don't have diligent note-taking, and if you don't have disciplined studying, and if you don't have disciplined ways to set up the exercise and the investigation so that other factors aren't counted accidentally, it's not going to turn out to be useful science. And that's the bottom line. I get the motivation. You don't want these people to have died in vain, but unfortunately, realism makes it that most of the work done in the Nazi camps, most of the work and quote-unquote research, really torture, that was done was in vain. I wish I could give you better news, Stevie. At least after the Nuremberg trials, there's legal precedent and there's world precedent set that people that enact these kind of things will be punished. So at least there's some precedent that the Western world won't take this shit. And hopefully that continues. We know we're stepping into potentially dark times, so it's always to be aware of these past conversations and the past contexts. Anyways, I think that's enough for the after show. That's enough motivating for me. Thank you, Stevie, for writing in. If you guys want to follow us on our Facebook pages for extra images, articles, videos relating to the case we're covering that week, just follow us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram. You can find the links to all our stuff at www.ovpod.ca. If you want to communicate with us, send an email to ovfeedback@gmail.com. or find OVPod on SpeakPipe, or just go to the contact page on our website and you can send in a voicemail. we'll read it on air. And as always, thank you to our lovely patrons, our little occultists that help fund this show every month. We couldn't do it without you guys. You guys are the blood that runs through our veins, and we are ever thankful. Anyways, I've been Ood Gallifrey with the After Show. Have a wonderful week. Thank you for tuning in, and you will see part 2 of Paul Bernardo and Karla Homolka next week, and that's where things get fucky.